In the east, the most important of those losses was the wide strip of territory given to the newly independent Poland, separating East Prussia from the rest of Germany. While on the west, France took back the provinces of Alsace and Lorraine, and was also given the right to mine coal in the Saar, an area placed under League of Nations control for 15 years. To protect France, Germany was forbidden to station soldiers in the Rhineland, an area which was to be occupied by Allied troops until 1935. It was not only the loss of territory which Germany resented, but also the fact that Czechoslovakia and Poland now contained large numbers of Germans. And as if to add insult to injury, the treaty forbade German-speaking Austria to unite with Germany. Her fortifications were to be destroyed. Her army was to be reduced to 100,000 men. No air force, no submarines, and to accept blame for starting the war and pay reparations. In protest at Scapa Flow, the British naval base, the Germans scuttled their fleet rather than hand it over to the Allies. It was a last defiant gesture. Germany would have to agree to the terms. She was in no position to restart the war. So, in the high summer of 1919, the German delegates were brought to the Great Hall of Mirrors at Versailles to sign the peace treaty. It was a compromise peace that satisfied not even one single Allied leader, and predictably the Germans loathed it.
Germany was now a very different nation. It was still Europe's biggest country, but its militaristic monarchy had gone. It had become a democracy. But its government, the so-called Weimar Republic, was soon struck by a series of hammer blows. Street battles erupted between extreme right-wing nationalists and communists trying to start a revolution. Ordinary people's savings were wiped out. This was fertile ground for a new breed of rabble-rousing right-wing politicians. Among them, Adolf Hitler. Hitler had been born in Austria. He had fought bravely as a soldier in World War I and been awarded the Iron Cross. On returning to Germany, he settled in Munich, and his fiery oratory soon enabled him to seize control of the small National Socialist or Nazi Party. In October 1923, Hitler and his henchmen attempted an armed coup against the Weimar government. It failed, and he was sentenced to 9 months. In prison, he wrote a book, Mein Kampf, My Struggle, in which he blamed Germany's ills on the Jews and demanded that it rebuild its strength and seek new territories in the East. On his release, he set about building the Nazis into a proper, disciplined political party. From now on, he would use the democratic system to achieve power. But for the next 5 years, Weimar Germany prospered. Support for extremist parties, left and right, dwindled. Then suddenly, Hitler's opportunity arrived. In October 1929, the US stock market crashed. Billions of dollars were lost, and an economic depression swept across the world. Unemployment in Germany soared to over 6 million. Only extremist politicians seemed to offer a solution. Politicians like Hitler. By 1931, his Nazis were a true mass movement. And they had their own brown-shirted thugs, the SA stormtroops, who numbered almost 3 million.
Pay off. In May 1928, the Nazis had been just one of several small parties in the Reichstag, the German parliament, with only 12 seats. But in September 1930, they increased that number to 107. In July 1932, they became the largest single party with 230 seats. But in November, they dropped back to 196, and it looked as if Hitler's bid for power might fail. But in the end, he was saved by President Hindenburg, a respected national hero. Hindenburg allowed himself to be persuaded that the Nazis could be tamed and made respectable if Hitler led a coalition government. And so, on the 30th of January 1933, he appointed Hitler Chancellor of Germany. His first act was to call for another election. In his own mind, it was to be the last. He was bent on the destruction of Parliament. He had no intention of tolerating other parties. But in public, he made a straight appeal for support. I ask of you, German people, that after you've given the other parties 14 years, you should give us 4. One week before the election, the Reichstag building went up in flames. This event suited the Nazis very well. Hitler blamed the communists and used the fire to persuade Hindenburg to sign a decree which in practice gave the Nazis power to put their political opponents in prisons and concentration camps. Although the majority of Germans still didn't vote for Hitler's party, in the March elections the Nazis gained 288 seats, their greatest number yet.